You've probably heard it before, cash is trash. But when it comes to retirement, in my opinion, that's way too black and white because here's the truth. Retirement planning isn't about choosing between all cash or no cash. It's not a yes or no question. The smarter question is how much cash should I have and why? Hi, I'm Jordan Lehman, founder and financial planner at True Wealth Retirement Partners. And every day I'm helping my clients create steady retirement income, investing smarter, paying less in taxes. And I want to share what's working for them so that you can retire with confidence too. So let's jump right in. One of the biggest mistakes I see retirees make is not having a clear plan for where to pull money from, especially in those early years, which is why I always start with a simple structure. The three bucket system. Now, for this video, I don't want to get deep into all three. I want to instead focus mostly on bucket one, which is cash or your short term safety net. And honestly, it's one of the most important pieces for reducing stress. So, bucket one holds, I'm going to say, between 6 to 24 months of living expenses in cash or cash equivalents. We're talking about money that's there to cover your basic lifestyle costs, right? Think housing, healthcare, groceries, insurance, whether the market is up, by the way, down, or sideways. And yes, I know cash earns next to nothing long term when you factor in inflation. But get this, that's not bucket number one's job. The job of bucket number one isn't to grow, it's to give you breathing room. It's there so you're not forced to sell your investments in a down market. It's what helps you sleep at night because no matter what the headlines say, you've got a year or two of cash ready to go. Now, by the way, little caveat here, it doesn't mean you just park it in a savings account getting no interest. Utilize a high yield savings, a money market, some kind of liquid and accessible place. I've seen, by the way, this play out again and again, right? Retirees with a healthy cash buffer, they just don't panic, frankly, during volatility because they know they don't need to touch their stocks right now. And that's a really powerful, by the way, mindset shift. And it sets up the rest of your retirement income plan for success. So the takeaway here isn't cash is good or cash is bad. It's this: cash is useful when you assign it the right role. And that brings us to the second piece of the puzzle because cash isn't just about math, it's also, by the way, about psychology. Let me ask you this: if your portfolio dropped again 20% tomorrow, how would you feel? Well, would you calmly stick with the plan? Or would you perhaps feel the urge to start selling before things get worse? The biggest investment mistakes I've seen in retirement usually don't come from bad markets, they come from bad timing. And that timing is often driven by fear. But here's the good news: cash can really help out with that. Take this conversation with a client of mine recently. He's retired, early 60s. And in April of 2025, his portfolio dropped by six figures amidst the tariff craziness. But he hasn't panicked. He didn't sell. In fact, I called him. He hardly flinched in our conversation. He said, "You know what? I'm kind of looking to maybe throw some more in." Why? Because he had 2 full years of living expenses set aside in a high yield savings account. And he told me, "Listen, I hate seeing it drop, but I know to expect that. And I know I don't need to touch it for a while. So, frankly, Jordan, I'm doing okay." Call your other clients, worry about them. That's the behavioral benefit of bucket number one. Okay, it acts like a cushion. It softens the blow when the markets punch you in the gut, and it keeps you from making a decision you'll regret later. Now, I always say this: cash should be a cushion, not a crutch. So if you lean on it too heavily, you risk, like we said earlier, falling behind versus inflation. But with the right balance, it can actually keep your plan intact long enough for the market to recover. Which brings us to a final and maybe most important question: how much cash should you hold. Again, personally, I like retirees in my experience and planning and conversations with them to have somewhere between 6 and 24 months of living expenses in cash or cash like assets. That's the range. But the exact number, it depends a little bit on you. So let's try to break that down. I'd recommend starting with your monthly spending. Okay. How much are you pulling from your portfolio to pay the bills? If that number is, say, $4,000 a month, then 1 year of cash is 48 grand, 2 years, 96. That kind of becomes your basic range. And then I would also take a peek, different people have different situations, right? At your guaranteed income. So if you're getting 2,500 a month from Social Security or a pension, perhaps that would reduce the amount you would need to pull from your savings, thereby reducing the amount of your bucket number one based on your preferences. And finally, I would ask yourself, how do I react when markets drop? And be honest. Maybe if you've got a spouse, ask them. If you're someone who loses sleep over what your portfolio is doing, maybe push yourself toward the higher end of that range, maybe 18 to 24 months. But if you're someone who's always been comfortable and confident in staying the course, maybe more towards 6 to 12. So again, this isn't about copying someone else's rule of thumb. It really is about building a cushion that fits your lifestyle, your income needs, and your emotional bandwidth. Because in retirement, peace of mind isn't a luxury, it ought to be part of the plan. So, is cash trash? Not even close, in my opinion. It's a tool, and like any good tool, it works best when it's used for the right job. We'll catch you in the next one.